Ooh. Things are on. Things are on. My light's not on. That's useful. That's great of me. It's probably better right now, especially the backlight. That looks fine. That looks solid. That looks solid. Are you hearing me? Got to go into YouTube to see if you can hear me. Ooh. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yes. Yes, you can. Well then, I guess we are able to start doing some shenanigans with all of this. If you could see like my angle looking over this way, this entire area is a mess of cords right now. It's great, but that's fine. It's fine. It's just, it feels like it's been so long since I've done a stream, but it's been like the normal amount of time, the same like every other week. I think time is a blur at this point. I have over here, before I start, I wanted to show you this little thing I got. Oh my god, I'm so stoked on it. It's so cool. You really can't even see it that well in the light because there's a glare. Oh my god, it's so cool. I got it for $3. I went to the first time in years because I never knew that there was a dollar store out in Hawaii, because there's not like a Dollar Tree or Family Dollar, anything like that. They have Daiso. And when I went there and I went a little overboard and I filled a bag with stuff, and I'm going back today because we found something super useful. Like our cats, when we let them out onto our lanai, they would sneak over into the neighbor's lanai. And so we haven't been able to just let them out there for a while. But we found this like thing that's supposed to prevent that. Like it's something, it looks like a bed of nails. But if that was made of plastic that isn't like sharp. And the cats don't like walking on it. So we put those around there and they're not at all interested in going over there. So we're just going to grab a couple more so they can go out and hang out in Lanai now without like being curious about that little hole in the wall that lets them get into the neighbor's yard. So I'm having fun with dollar stores, but that's not what we're here to talk about. We are actually here to talk about the book that I read/listened to this past couple of weeks. It was the second book in the Critical Failures Cavern Creatures series. Fail Harder is the name of the book itself. And we're gonna jump into it. I've got like this whole thing of pretty and organized notes that we're gonna go over as we like discuss this. It's so nice. I love having this tablet so much. But let's start off with like the things you really need to know about the series. If you haven't seen the other video that I did, then let's go over the things you need to know about the series in general. And so far, as again, I've only gotten into the first 2 books. The only real major things you need to know that you missed are going to be that there's a group of guys. They're playing this game. It's a D&D style game, Caverns and Creatures. If you don't know what Dungeons and Dragons is, it is like a fantasy role-playing game where there's magic, there's a lot of points and stuff. You roll dice. That's the most generic description of D&D I can give. So you have them playing, they're playing this D&D style game, and they're picking on the guy who's the Cavern Master, Dungeon Master, who is making up, he's not a participant in the game, but he is the one that knows everything about the story, about the world, who's guiding the game that they're playing. They pick on him because he's wearing a cape, and he uses some magic dice and pulls them actually into that real world. So now they're actually a part of the world. Characters that we have, let's go over that real quick so you don't get confused as I'm going through things. Throughout this whole experience we're going through, you have Cooper, who gets turned into a half orc, which is just half human, half monstrosity. Basically all you need to know. He's gross, he's an ass, and he's just rude. You have Tim, who is like half human, half elf or something like that. No, not half elf, half human, half something else. He's a halfling, really, really small, and he's the brother to Catherine. Catherine she's never played this game before. She wasn't a part of the group. She got sent over after the main group of 4. but she's Tim's sister. She is a half-elf, and she has a wolf named Butterbean, who is just like a companion that is a part of the game. A part of the game is her having this companion who is a wolf. Then you have, still back to the main four, you have Julian, who this is his first time playing, but he wanted to play, and he is a sorcerer. You have Dave, who is a cleric, which is a healer, and he is, I believe, a dwarf. Side note, he does at the very beginning of the book meet another dwarf, and they have kind of like a romance-looking thing going on. It isn't yet relevant to the story. Like, she kind of disappeared towards the beginning of the book, but I do imagine it's going to come back into play because she had a name and everything. And if you know me, like I've said before, when you're reading a mystery or anything of that sort, if someone has a name, they are very important. And then then you have Chaz, who is Catherine's boyfriend, who got pulled into this. He's played the game before, but he hasn't played in a while. He's supposed to be the cool one. This is Nugget. He's just a cat, but he's a cool cat. And then you have Mordred, who is that dungeon master, tavern master. And he is also the one that sent them away into this world. So I want to try and make this a bit more organized than I have been with these videos. So I'm going to start off by giving you the 5 things you just really need to know about the book and what happened in the book. First of all, so you have, last thing that happened in the first book that's important to know is Mordred was in the real world and he got trapped in a meat locker and they saw him freeze to death, quote unquote. They saw him freeze to death through a character he was embodying in the game. Now, about the actual book, about Fail Harder. So after Mordred's death, the group they go to a bar, they're drinking, and they end up separating Kat and Chaz unknowingly to the rest of the group. Kat and Chaz go, and they end up spending the night and going off into a castle with this vampire who is controlling Kat's mind. Like, she now feels like she's absolutely in love with this vampire. The main 4, that is Julian, Dave, Cooper, and Tim, they go off to another bar that is full of other people that Mordred had sent over into this world. So, and that other bar is called the Horsehead Inn. It's not all of the people, though, that Mordred sent over. So number 3 is going to be that Mordred sent over a group of, middle schoolers because he was playing Cavern Master to them for a game, and they're like, oh my god, this game is so cool. Oh my god, Mordred, you're such a great guy. Oh my god, you're a hero. And he's like, well, if I'm your hero, let me do you a favor. And he sent them over to this world, and that was a prize to them. And so now you have these middle schoolers who are embodying more super giant strong creatures and super magical creatures, and they're taking over the bodies that they as middle schoolers don't have. They're much more powerful in this world, and they love it. And they were originally with the crew over at the Horsehead Inn, the guys that our main 4 are staying with, but they were just so rude and aggressive and violent that they got kicked away, which they found to be a problem because now they're off on their own. They're killing, murdering people. They're pillaging. They're raping. We meet them because they are just torturing a dog. And because of how the game works, as they kill, as they pillage, they are getting more and more points, and they are leveling up faster and faster. So they are at the point where they are all stronger than the group at the Horsehead Inn. So the Horsehead Inn people don't really know what to do with them anymore. The major issue with that group of middle schoolers is the fact that they did love Mordred, and now Mordred's gone very, very quiet, and that makes them upset. And now they want to find out what happened to their OG, their main boy, stuff like that. Number 4, back to the vampire thing. because that's still a situation. Tim and the main four, whilst they are at the Horsehead Inn with those people, they're still trying to figure out a way in order to actually get Catherine and save his sister from this vampire. The main thing, they're like confused on how to do it though, because the vampire is just a lonely guy. He's just lonely. He just wants some friends. But they're like, I'm fairly certain he's mind controlling my sister, so we're just gonna kill him anyway. So they go back to the castle. They kill him. And after they find out that he has turned Catherine into a vampire, because again, a part of this whole thing, when you play one of these games, you have a character sheet that says all the information about your characters. You keep track of like how many hit points or how many like life points have been taken away when you're get attacked, stuff like that. And so they're looking at a character sheet and it says dead. And so they're like, oh my God, we have to go there and kill him now. They go, find out she's a vampire now, which is she's undead technically. And so they go kill the vampire. She loses her mind control, but it's daytime. She's a vampire now. She can't be out in the light. So they put her in a bag of holding. And so what a bag of holding is a bag that contains another dimension. So it's infinite space in it. If you've seen like the Deathly Hallows movies, it's the purse Hermione had. It is just a bag with infinite space. So they just put Catherine's whole body in there and they keep her in there until, so far they haven't taken her out really. She's just hanging out in there. And they've thrown like a person and a pig in there for her to eat because she needs blood. She has to consume blood because of vampire now. And then the last thing that's going on is they take some of the money that vampire had and they go to a wizard and they're like, hey, wizard, we need you to send us home. The wizard's like, I don't know, man. Like, that sounds really complicated. They give him money and he's like, I can do it, but I need to like have an intimate knowledge of the place you're going to. And so Julian's like, hey, what if you read our minds? Then you'd have like an intimate knowledge of the place. So they end up doing this. He's seeing the images of the place as he's sending Tim home. And the agreement had been, you only have enough gold for me to send Tim home. That's it. I can only send one person home. So they're like, Tim can do it. And then he'll figure out how to use dice and he'll bring everyone home. So he's reading the mind of Tim as he's sending Tim through the time and space and whatnots. And he's like, oh my God, this place is amazing. They send him. He's like, oh my God, I'm going to send everyone through right now because I'm going with you. Then we go back to Tim, and Tim he finds himself, he's in Chicken Hut, which is where it all started. It's his restaurant, the Chicken Hut. And he has the bag of holding in his lap. He's like, finally, we're home. But unfortunately for him, things didn't go quite as planned because he finds like everything around him is just way too big. And if you remember, Tim in the game was a halfling, so he would have been about half the size of a normal human. Everything just feels bigger to him now, and so he climbs up a chair so he can look in a mirror and finds he's still the halfling, but he's in the real world now. And so it looks like the next book is going to be us having all of these fantastical creatures and characters, but all in the real world. And that's literally not even the plot twist of the book. But I'm going to let you guys, I'm not going to bring up the plot twist of the book. It probably really wouldn't be for like another month because that's about the rate I've been reading these books. Like the books that I'm reading in a series, that's the rate at which I've been getting to them. So it's not like I'm reading, because again, this is like a 7-book series. I don't want to read all of them at once and then everyone gets bored, you know? But yeah, so you're going to have to wait, unless you read it yourself, you're going to have to wait like a full month to find out what the actual plot twist of the story is. So, Nugget, what are you doing? Nugget. Lay down. You can lay down. Down. There he goes. So, the book. I honestly went into this book thinking it was going, like, ready for it to be trash and ready to, like, kind of bail out on this entire series. But I honestly liked this better than the first one. The storytelling is just done so well. Like, it's surprising how well the storytelling is done. So, for instance, when we're talking about the story about the vampire knocking down my YouTube sign. What if knocked over my toy? This is why we can't have nice things. So, but like, let's talk about how the setup for this entire like killing a vampire scene was done. So, if you go way back to like the first or second time they ever visited Catherine in the castle with the vampire, again, he seems like he's just a lonely guy. They don't want to like be rude when he's just trying so hard to entertain them and make them feel like they're his friends, so they'll be his friends. And he goes off, and Tim's like, I still don't trust it. Like, warning, again, this is not like a family-friendly book, but he's like, I still don't trust it. Is he using his mind control so he can have sex with Catherine? And Catherine's like, he can't, because vampires don't have blood flow, and I'll let you guys figure out the rest of that issue. And so you have that end, and on the other end, you have this feud that like Cooper has. He's being rude to this guy who has a really hot wife because Cooper wants to sleep with this guy's wife, and that makes that guy mad. And so they're just they're going at it. And then when they finally decide, hey, we need one of the team to make a super nice steak that'll help give us a chance at actually killing this vampire. One day, oh my God, Nugget. They find the guy that Cooper's been feuding with finds out what it is. And he makes the suggestion to the friend of theirs that's making it, hey, let's make this steak, but like the grip that you hold should be in the shape of a penis. And stop it, Nugget. So, should be in the shape of a penis. Like literally everything I've said so far is going to come into play in this like major fight scene. So you have that. The night before, and the reason why they wanted to make it in the shape of his penis is because the guards at the vampire's castle pat them down and take all their weapons. So the only place they could hide it would be up Cooper's butt. And so that's that minor story. They drink the night before, like they drink some really hard drinks the night before they're supposed to go save Catherine. Nuggets. What are you gonna do if I ever have a play button? You're just gonna eat it, huh? So they drink alcohol, which dehydrates you. They drink a lot of it the night before. They plan to go the night before they end up going to try and kill the vampire. On their way, they want to see, because the reason why they go actually decide to fight this vampire is because Catherine's dead. So they go over to a church and see if the church can help bring her to life. But Cooper sees a fountain, and he drinks a ton of it. He drinks a ton from it. He drinks like half of the fountain. The fountain is of holy water. They get over to the guy's place. And Cooper pees in the coffin. They're at a point where they're like convinced that Catherine is actually not being mind controlled. And they're like, hey, she consents. This is a relationship she wants. We'll respect that. Let's not kill him. But Cooper's already peed in the thing. And so they're like, okay, we have to try and figure out how to like make it through this dinner, make it through this night, without starting a fight because Cooper peed in his coffin. They're eating dinner. The steak falls out of Cooper's butt, and the vampire's offended because it's the shape of a penis, and he thinks they're making fun of him. So that starts the fight. During the fight, like, it's towards the end of the fight, they like stabbed him a couple times, and it makes him explode. And he's like, I'll be back. He's like exploded into this mist form thing. And he's like, I'll be back. And so he goes to regenerate in his coffin. But the coffin is now filled with pee. The pee that was produced from water, that was holy water. And that kills the vampire. And just the amount of, like, how immensely all of the details given in the story are all going to go back and are all going to impact the main and overarching plot line is just really, really well done. And I appreciate that so much. Nugget! He's gonna... We're just going to hold his face. You need to apologize to the camera. You're distracting. You're a distraction. He's a distraction. I apologize. But I do, like, it's honestly, I honestly would put maybe not the first book of the series, because the first book of this series was a lot more aggressive on some of the jokes and some of the, like, kind of inner character dialogue, because it's setting up all of that. And so I may not put that book in my favorites, but this one probably is one of my favorites. I really appreciate this book. Another thing that I really appreciated was at the end of the book when you see Tim teleport over and he's just gotten over to the real world. He's talking about, like, how he's, like, finagling the bag of holding so it's comfortable to carry, whatnot. And that's immediately something that should, like, notify you something's wrong, because, again, a bag of holding is a magical item. For it to exist in the real world and for it to exist with its original purpose in the real world means that something's off and that there's potentially magic now in the real world and that was brought over. So therefore, it's possible that Tim was then brought over in his original form, which does kind of, like, get hinted at when you say, like, he still had the bag of holding. Especially then you realize that this, who was it? The magician that was doing the thing that sent him over didn't know that he needed to change his form. He didn't know that Tim needed his form changed. He didn't know that he wouldn't have even known what Tim looked like outside of his halfling form. And so that then was setting up for the bigger story of what's going to happen now that we have these characters in the real world in these forms. I'm so excited because that sounds like such an interesting story to read. I'm very interested in that. Turn on. Now, was this the most thought-provoking book I've ever read? That's still a no. I wouldn't say it's more like mind candy. Because it's still really well written, but it's more telling a story than trying to give me a moral or teach me a lesson. Like, I am here to... Excuse you. I am here to, like, read a story, hear a story about these characters. I don't know what is up with my light right now, but you're here to listen about the story, read the story about these characters, about the experience they're actually going through, less than you're doing that and not really there to try and, like, learn a lesson, try and find something, make yourself better with the story. That's not what the story is about. The story is not trying to make you a better human being, unless exclusively talking about how you are not these characters, because Cooper's kind of the worst. He doesn't always try to be, and to a point he can't help it, because, again, like, in these games, you divide up, you have a certain number of points to start out with, and you divide those amongst different characteristics, and charisma, your ability to, like, kind of charm or, like, make people like you. His is at, like, a 4, and that basically means he is constantly pooping himself. So he, to a degree, cannot help it, but at the same time, he is very obnoxious. But I do appreciate how the entire situation has changed these characters. Like, they're all taking everything a bit more seriously. They're all a bit more invested and in the situation that they're in. And I really like where the story is going with it being in the real world now. But again, it's going to be probably around a month before I actually get around to it. Until then, we have another story that we're going to look into. I really decided I wanted to read this, mostly because I didn't know what else to read, because my Audible credits don't refill, and all of the books that I have right now are in a series. Like, they're all genuinely a part of some series, most of which I don't want to start. Like, my favorite one of my favorite book series is, I have almost all of the books on Audible, but I don't want to like listen to them until I've been able to just read them first. And so now I'm waiting for my Audible credits to refill so that way I can get a new book. Until then, I'm reading another graphic novel. I don't know why I decided to do this one, but that's the choice I made. And besides, I was looking ready for this book, ready for Critical Failures #2 to be trash, ready for it to be kind of a junk story. It wasn't. So we got to replace that with something. So the next time you guys come around to do a live stream, I will have read an Archie comic, Archie versus Sharknado. And if you're really interested in that stream, I can give you my opinion of the new TV show on Netflix, Riverdale. So that's gonna be what's gonna happen next time around. Until then, feel free to check out my Patreon account. I am currently reading my proof copy of my book that I wrote, and that is coming out this coming month. So I'm editing that. First chapter of the book is going to go on Patreon for all of my supporters. If you're interested in that, check that out over there. You can also go over to my Instagram at Firestorm2343 or at Tormenta de Fuego 2343, and you can just hear from me in a bit more of a spontaneous setting. And if you're really interested in the stuff that I do on this channel and all the books and talking about the books and whatnot, if you want to go hear more about this, check me out on GoodReads, because I am on GoodReads posting stuff, just kind of keeping up to date with all the thoughts that I'm having as I'm reading these books. And that's honestly probably where you'll get a lot more from me, is just posting, like, what am I thinking of this book? What's going on with this book in GoodReads? I do a lot of that. So that's that. Hopefully you'll check something out and find something you like. But until next time, valedictions, friends.